There are few shows that are as hilarious or inspiring as Steven Spielberg's and Warner Brothers' Animaniacs. And I'm talking about the original here because the reboot is, this show had it all. It had slapstick, it had wordplay, it had fluid animation, whatever you wanted, it had, and it had in droves. There's barely anybody out there who wouldn't think that Animaniacs is hilarious because, like I said, it had a lot to offer, but what a lot of people don't realize is that every segment in Animaniacs offered something different. For example, the Warners were the ones that tended to offer the wordplay the most.
You've got a great face for radio.
Pinky and the Brain offered more character-based comedy, given the fact that the characters there were some of the most fleshed out in the series.
Tomorrow is the running of the Kentucky Derby. Do you know what that is?
Oh, a very large hat.
Promise me something, Pinky. Never breed.
I'll try.
Mindy and Buttons would provide slapstick, the Goodfeathers would provide a little bit of mix of everything, that sort of stuff, so it catered to just about every audience. But what if you don't like comedy for whatever reason? What if you're just some sour grump who refuses to laugh at anything? Well, guess what? Animaniacs still has you covered. Given the fact that Animaniacs is famously a comedy show, a lot of people who haven't seen it wouldn't expect that one of their segments would be story-based, and guess what? They'd be dead wrong. I'm talking about the Rita and Runt segments, and I'm gonna tell you why they were the hidden heart to Animaniacs. While they lasted, we'll talk about that at the end. What are the Rita and Runt segments about, you ask? Well, in case you don't know, let me tell you. Rita and Runt is about a stray cat named Rita and a homeless dog named Runt, and the two of them go on various adventures trying to find new homes. This can either be in suburbia, the Arctic, Nebraska, ancient Egypt, or Les Mis. Just like every other cast in Animaniacs, Rita and Runt can be in just about any time period, any location, for any reason, but the difference is, they do it in a little bit of a different way. For example, Putting on the Blitz is all about Rita and Runt trying to save this girl from German soldiers in World War II. Yeah, I'm not joking, that's actually what it's about. And it's not filled with a bunch of "hello, nurse," or "it's time to take over the world." Instead, it's a legitimate story about them trying to help this little girl. It's like the Tom and Jerry movie done right, but instead of a tiny brown mouse, it's a giant brown dog. And in the end, Rita gets adopted, but Runt doesn't. Or how's about the episode Les Misérables, where it's basically a parody of Les Mis, and there's a lot of singing, but that's to be expected because Rita and Runt is the most song-heavy segment in all of Animaniacs. And that's because of who plays Rita. None other than Bernadette Peters. Yeah, the Bernadette Peters. She actually agreed to be on the show. As expected, she knocks it out of the park every time. To be fair, these songs are some of the best in the entire show, so that's to be expected. And since when has an Animaniacs song not been good, right? These two provide a nice change of pace. Animaniacs is so zippy and high energy and all that sort of stuff, so it's nice to give the writing staff a little bit of something else. They get to challenge themselves. In the midst of all this comedy, they have to make a legitimate story. And they have to make it in 7 minutes. Rita and Runt segments are not any longer than the rest, so they have to fit a compelling story in that small amount of runtime, and as far as I can tell, they haven't messed it up once. That's not to say Rita and Runt never has any comedy in it, because it most certainly does. Runt is a big, lovable oaf, so of course there's gonna be a lot of humor, and it's Animaniacs. Do you think they're just gonna play it entirely straight? But still, that's not their main focus. Nevertheless, the comedy's still good. Runt gets a laugh out of you basically every single time he opens his mouth.
My name's Runt, but my master calls me stupid. What a nice guy.
Now let me explain why these segments work so well and why this is part of Character Quest. I'm gonna talk about the characters, Rita and Runt themselves. Let's start with Runt because he's kind of the easier one to discuss. Runt is always happy. Just like a dog, he's energetic, he's curious, and more often than not, he gets himself into trouble without really knowing any better, but still, he's unbelievably loyal. He will stick to Rita no matter what, because after all, dogs have to stick together, right? Yeah, Runt doesn't know that Rita's a cat, and nobody tell him, okay? Because that's gonna destroy this whole dynamic, and nobody wants that. Runt's the kind of guy that always wants to look on the bright side of life. Now, whether that's through choice or through nature, it's kind of up in the air. But for example, when they wanted to go to Chicago and ended up in Nebraska, he tried to find the bright side in it all, saying, "Hey, we got corn here, isn't corn great? Everyone loves corn." Happiness is the most important thing to this guy, not just his own, but his friends as well. He doesn't want Rita to be upset, he wants her to be happy on these crazy missions they go on, and of course, like her, he wants to find a home. However, he seems a little less focused than she is, partially because he's not as smart as she is, but also because, again, he can kind of take things in stride. Runt makes mountains out of molehills in the opposite way, in the sense where there's a small little good thing that happens and then he sees it as the greatest thing ever. He doesn't deal in shades of gray, it's all black and white. Partially because he doesn't have the intelligence to see the world in any other way, but still the point stands. Now let's talk about Rita. She is all about finding a home. That is all she wants, and it has to be something good. Something safe, something secure, something with food, and preferably something lively like Chicago. Not just any old house will do. Just like how Runt's personality is based on a real-life dog, Rita's is based on a real-life cat. She's grumpy, uptight, and independent. At least that's what she tries to be, because she has a lot of moments in the series where she ends up dropping that facade. In the very first episode she appears in, when Rita met Runt, she opens up about how the reason she's like this is because her previous owner was, let's just say, not very nice to her. Slapping her around a lot, ignoring her, and just treating her poorly in general. It seems like Runt wasn't treated the best either, but he prefers to overlook that stuff, meanwhile Rita takes it to heart. Much like the bowler hat guy from Meet the Robinsons, she can't move on. Instead, she keeps it inside and lets it fester and boil, but instead of her failure, it's someone else's, and that affected her. However, she's still gonna go out and try to make things right, but still, the lingering effects of what happened still stay inside of her, even though that person is far out of her life. Even though Rita's all about trying to find a home and nothing else, or at least that's what she says, she still has her principles. She will not accept a home without Runt. Going back to putting on the Blitz, she gets adopted by the girl and not Runt. However, she doesn't want to go with her anymore because if Runt's not going to be in the home, why should she? They've gone through so much, she can't just abandon her best friend. She wouldn't want to talk about that, of course. She wouldn't want to say, oh yeah, I'm softening up, it's all good. No, it's just, yeah, that happened, come on, let's go and find something else. Very likely because she doesn't really want to emotionally open up to somebody, given the fact that her previous owner definitely didn't allow her to do that given how distant they were, but still, Runt tries anyways, and often gets results out of her, even if she doesn't want to admit it. There's an episode where they get lost in the Arctic, and it's Runt that ends up finding the home and not her, and she's extremely torn up about it. She doesn't know what to do except just carry on and, once again, bottle the hurt inside and let it change her for the worst. But then it's made all better when Runt comes back moments later saying, yeah, we're sticking together. There's also Smitten with the Kittens, where Rita and Runt find a box of puppies, and they latch onto Rita as their mama, but she rejects them outright because she doesn't want a family because, again, that involves opening herself up, and thus risking more hurt. But in her song, she opens up about how she actually does want that because she does want love and affection and for someone to value her, but she's just too scared to let it happen. She's been hurt too many times and doesn't want it to happen again under any circumstances, but in the environment she's in, with Runt and all these emotions flying around and sometimes meeting some side characters that she bonds with, she doesn't really have that option anymore. She kinda has to open up. And we see that more and more as the shorts go on. This is really strong for Animaniacs. I mean, the next strongest characters would probably be Pinky and the Brain, but even they pale in comparison to these guys. But it wasn't enough. Because Rita and Runt only appeared in the first season, and then that was it. Now, the real reason for this wasn't because of any reception or tonal issues. It was because Rita and Runt was way too expensive to keep going. Not only did there have to be a well-produced Broadway-style song in every episode, but they also had Bernadette Peters, and given the fact that she's a major celebrity, they couldn't afford to keep her on with their minuscule cable budget. So Rita and Runt kinda got retired. They got brought back towards the end through some minor appearances that started getting bigger and bigger as time went on, and then in Wacko's Wish they finally did find a home with Dr. Scratch and Sniff. Isn't that great? Yeah, it is, but I do kinda wish we got more Rita and Runt because as it stands, we only got a few shorts. We got more than Katie Kaboom or Minerva Mink, so at least there's that. But still, I really liked what they did here. I thought that they really knocked it out of the park. If they had their own show that had this kind of style, I would have definitely watched it. Don't get me wrong, other stuff like Freakazoid is great, but still. A little bit of variety would have been nice. And they didn't have to have Bernadette Peters, you know? Well, it's a little late to change that now, isn't it? But going back to the fact that they didn't have to have Bernadette Peters play Rita, yeah, it's true. They had a lot of talented actresses that could sing very well in the show, but they really wanted to put in that extra effort. That was really the entire theme of Rita and Runt. Effort. Effort in the animation, effort in the characters, effort in the story, effort in the music, effort in everything. And it's sad that not a lot of people recognize the duo as being some of Animaniacs' greats. Maybe it's because they didn't last very long, maybe it's because of... I can't think of a second thing. But I really hope that people start warming up more to Rita and Runt. I mean, don't get me wrong, hardcore Animaniacs fans love them, and yeah, some casuals do too. But very few will say that they're their favorites like I do, and even fewer will say, yeah, they totally deserve to be in the Animaniacs reboot, which, yeah, I never thought was gonna happen for a second, because again, Bernadette Peters. Probably even more expensive now than she was back then. But I'm kinda reaching the end of my points here. Rita and Runt, great segments because of the amazing characters found within. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? Do you like Rita and Runt? What are your favorite Animaniacs segments? Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Real quick, I'd like to thank our Patreon executive producers, Reziel, Leaf Razor, Azarius, Tanner Kapishki, Michael Bellamy, Whoop-Doo, and MD the Dude. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. Before we wrap this video up, it's time for the comment of the day. Today's comment of the day goes to C.M. Tolbert. In all reality, Tommy Wiseau makes a more interesting Joker. Yes, that's a real thing.
What doesn't kill you make you stranger.
I actually forgot about that video, and it changed my life upon remembering it because, wow. Honestly, I wish he was the Joker instead of Joaquin Phoenix. Not saying that Joaquin Phoenix did bad, because he most certainly did not. It's just that, come on, we gotta have more Tommy. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time!